The rain hammered against the concrete walls of the naval weapons station like bullets from an angry sky. Maria Santos pulled her security jacket tighter as she made her rounds through the dimly lit corridors of Building 47, her boots echoing in the empty hallways. At 28 years old, she had been working night security at the munitions facility for 3 years, ever since her discharge from the army. Most people thought guarding weapons storage was boring work, but Maria knew better. Every night, she was responsible for millions of dollars worth of explosives and ammunition that could level half the base if they fell into the wrong hands. The digital clock on her radio showed 0147 hours. Maria stopped at checkpoint 7 and scanned her badge, the green light confirming her position to the command center. She had walked these same halls thousands of times, memorizing every crack in the floor, every shadow cast by the fluorescent lights. Tonight felt different somehow, though she couldn't put her finger on why. Maybe it was the storm, or maybe it was the strange phone call she'd received earlier from her supervisor telling her to expect a special inspection sometime during her shift. Maria had grown up in a military family. Her father had been a Marine, her older brother served in the Air Force, and her younger sister was currently deployed with the Navy somewhere in the Pacific. Service ran in her blood, but her path had been different from theirs. While they chose combat roles, Maria found her calling in security and protection. She understood that someone had to guard the home front, someone had to make sure the weapons stayed secure so they could be there when needed. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was important work. The munitions facility was enormous, spanning several city blocks with multiple buildings connected by underground tunnels. Building 47 was one of the most secure sections, housing advanced missile components and explosive materials that required the highest level of clearance. Maria was one of only 12 guards authorized to patrol this area alone. She had earned that trust through 3 years of perfect service, never missing a shift, never compromising protocol, never letting her guard down. As she continued her rounds, Maria thought about the conversation she'd had with her sister Elena during their last video call. Elena had asked why Maria didn't try to get a job with better hours, maybe something in an office where she could have a normal social life. Maria had struggled to explain that this work gave her purpose. Every night, she was protecting something that mattered. Every patrol she completed was another night that these weapons stayed out of the wrong hands. It might not be exciting, but it was necessary. The storm outside was getting worse. Maria could hear the wind howling through the ventilation system, and the lights flickered occasionally when thunder crashed overhead. She made her way to the main storage area, a vast warehouse filled with carefully organized shelves of secured containers. Each container was numbered, tracked, and accounted for down to the last bullet. Maria had memorized the inventory system so well that she could spot anything out of place within minutes. She was checking the environmental controls when her radio crackled to life. "Santos, this is command. What's your status?" Maria keyed her mic all clear on level 3, proceeding to level 4. Environmental systems showing normal across all sectors. Copy that. Be advised, we have a VIP inspection incoming. ETA approximately 20 minutes. Commander will meet you at the main entrance to Building 47. Maria's pulse quickened slightly. VIP inspections were rare, especially in the middle of the night during a storm. Copy, command. Can you give me any details on the nature of this inspection? Negative. Just maintain standard protocols and provide full cooperation. Command out. Maria checked her watch again. 20 minutes to prepare for an unexpected inspection by someone important enough to be called a commander. She quickened her pace, mentally reviewing all the protocols and procedures that might be relevant. Her uniform was clean and pressed, her equipment was in order, and she had completed all her required checks on schedule. Whatever this inspection was about, she was ready for it. The next 15 minutes passed slowly as Maria made her way back toward the main entrance. She used the time to do a final sweep of the common areas, making sure everything was perfect. Her father had always told her that attention to detail was what separated good soldiers from great ones. Even though she wasn't on active duty anymore, those lessons still guided everything she did. As she reached the entrance lobby, Maria could see headlights cutting through the rain outside. A black SUV pulled up to the security gate, and she watched through the bulletproof glass as the night guard checked credentials and opened the barrier. The vehicle approached the main entrance, and Maria took a deep breath. Whatever was about to happen, she would handle it with the same professionalism she brought to every aspect of her job. The SUV's doors opened, and a figure in military dress uniform stepped out into the rain. Even from a distance, Maria could see the bearing of someone accustomed to command. The person moved with purpose and confidence, seemingly unbothered by the storm. As they approached the entrance, Maria could make out more details. The visitor was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried himself with the kind of presence that filled a room even before he entered it. Maria positioned herself at attention near the entrance as the outer doors opened. The security vestibule required a second badge scan and biometric verification, so she would have a moment to observe her visitor before the inner doors unlocked. Through the reinforced glass, she got her first clear look at the man who had come to inspect her facility. He was older than she had expected, probably in his early 40s, with graying hair and intense dark eyes. His uniform was immaculate despite the rain, and the insignia on his collar identified him as Navy. More specifically, the trident pin on his chest marked him as a SEAL. Maria felt a flutter of nervousness. SEALs had a reputation for being incredibly demanding, and she wondered what had brought one to her facility in the middle of a storm. The biometric scanner beeped, and the inner doors opened with a soft hiss. The commander stepped inside, water dripping from his uniform, and fixed Maria with a steady gaze that seemed to take in everything about her in an instant. She snapped to attention and offered a crisp salute. "Good evening, sir. Petty Officer Santos reporting. I understand you're here for an inspection of the facility." The commander returned her salute and extended his hand. "Commander James Mitchell, Naval Special Warfare Group. I appreciate you meeting me at this hour, Petty Officer. I know this is unusual timing." Maria shook his hand, noting the firm grip and the calluses that spoke of hands-on experience. "Not a problem, sir. What can I show you tonight?" Commander Mitchell studied her for a moment before answering. "I need to see your security protocols in action, particularly your response procedures." "This isn't a routine inspection, Santos. We have reason to believe there may be a credible threat to this facility, and I need to assess our readiness." The words hit Maria like a cold shock. A credible threat. Suddenly, the strange timing of this visit made perfect sense. "What kind of threat, sir?" "Intelligence suggests a possible attempt to breach security within the next 72 hours. Someone with inside knowledge may be planning to access materials from this facility. I'm here to evaluate whether our current security measures are adequate to prevent that from happening." Maria's mind raced. 3 years of routine patrols had suddenly transformed into something much more serious. "Sir, I can walk you through our complete security protocol. Every checkpoint, every procedure, every failsafe we have in place." Commander Mitchell nodded approvingly. "That's exactly what I need. But I also need to know about any irregularities you've noticed recently. Anyone asking unusual questions, any changes in routine, anything that struck you as odd." As they began walking deeper into the facility, Maria found herself thinking back over the past few weeks. Had there been anything unusual? Anyone acting strangely? The weight of responsibility she had always felt seemed heavier now, more immediate. This wasn't just about protecting weapons anymore. This was about protecting people from those weapons if they fell into the wrong hands. The storm outside continued to rage, but inside Building 47, Maria Santos was about to prove that she was much more than just a night security guard. She was about to become the first line of defense against a threat that could endanger countless lives. And the SEAL commander walking beside her was about to discover that sometimes the most valuable allies come from the most unexpected places. As they approached the first checkpoint, Maria began explaining the security protocols she knew by heart. But, in the back of her mind, a question nagged at her: if someone was planning to breach this facility, did they already know she would be the one standing in their way? Commander Mitchell followed Maria through the first security checkpoint, his trained eyes taking in every detail of the facility's layout. As they walked, Maria explained each layer of protection with the confidence of someone who truly understood her job. Her knowledge impressed him. Most security guards could tell you about the basics, but Maria understood the reasoning behind every protocol, every seemingly redundant procedure. The facility operates on a zone-based security system, Maria explained as they approached a heavy steel door marked with warning signs. Each zone requires escalating clearance levels. We're entering Zone 3 now, which houses the medium-grade explosives and missile components. She swiped her badge and placed her palm on a biometric scanner. The door opened with a heavy click, revealing a corridor lined with reinforced doors. Each storage room is monitored separately. Temperature, humidity, motion sensors, everything is tracked in real time by the command center. Mitchell nodded, but his expression remained serious. Tell me about the personnel who have access to this level. 12 guards have Zone 3 clearance for patrol duties. 4 supervisors have administrative access during day shifts. 6 technicians are authorized for inventory and maintenance work. Maria rattled off the numbers from memory. Everyone requires dual authentication and escort protocols for any interaction with stored materials. As they walked, Mitchell studied the security cameras positioned throughout the corridor. How often are the recordings reviewed? Daily for routine verification, weekly for complete analysis. Any anomaly triggers immediate review. Maria paused at another checkpoint. Sir, may I ask what kind of intelligence suggests a threat to this facility? Mitchell was quiet for a moment, weighing how much information to share. 3 days ago, NSA intercepted communications suggesting someone with detailed knowledge of naval weapons storage was attempting to sell that information to foreign interests. The conversations mentioned specific inventory items that are housed in this facility. The implications hit Maria immediately. Someone with authorized access was planning to betray their trust. Do you have suspects, sir? We have a list of possibilities, but that's why I'm here. I need to understand how someone could potentially bypass your security measures. Mitchell stopped walking and turned to face her directly. I also need to know if you've noticed anything unusual about any of your colleagues recently. Maria felt the weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. 3 years of trusting the people she worked with, and now she was being asked to consider which of them might be a traitor. Sir, I need to be honest. Everyone I work with seems dedicated to their job. But, now that you mention it, there have been a few things that didn't quite add up. Tell me. They continued walking as Maria organized her thoughts. 2 weeks ago, I found Dave Kowalski in Zone 4 after his shift was supposed to be over. He said he was doing extra inventory checks because of some discrepancies, but when I checked the logs the next day, there were no discrepancies reported. Mitchell made a mental note. What else? Last week, Sarah Chen asked me detailed questions about the guard rotation schedule. She said she was trying to optimize her rounds, but she's worked here longer than I have. She already knows the schedule better than anyone. As they reached the entrance to Zone 4, the facility's most secure area, Maria hesitated. Sir, there's something else. It might be nothing, but I've been getting a feeling lately that someone has been watching me during my rounds. I know that sounds paranoid, but after 3 years of walking these halls alone, you develop a sense for when something is different. Mitchell's expression sharpened. Trust that instinct. In my experience, people who spend a lot of time in dangerous situations develop heightened awareness for good reason. When did you first notice this feeling? About 10 days ago. It's subtle, like someone is observing my patterns, timing my movements. Maria swiped them into Zone 4, the most restricted area of the facility. I started varying my route slightly, taking different paths between checkpoints. The feeling persists. Zone 4 was smaller than the previous areas but contained the most sensitive materials. Advanced guidance systems, high-grade explosives, and classified prototypes were stored behind additional layers of security. Maria walked Mitchell through the protocols with the same thoroughness she had shown in the other zones, but he could sense her growing unease. Santos, I want you to walk me through exactly what happened during your shift 2 weeks ago when you encountered Kowalski in Zone 4. Maria closed her eyes for a moment, reconstructing the memory. I was running about 15 minutes ahead of schedule because I had completed the Zone 3 checks faster than usual. When I entered Zone 4, I heard movement near Storage Unit 47 Delta. I called out to identify myself, and Dave emerged from behind the unit. He seemed surprised to see me. What reason did he give for being there? He said he was investigating a temperature anomaly in one of the storage units. But, when I checked the environmental logs later, all readings were normal for the entire week. Maria paused. Sir, Dave has been acting differently since that night. He's been friendlier to me, asking about my schedule, offering to cover shifts. Before that, we barely spoke. Mitchell processed this information carefully. In his years of special operations, he had learned that behavioral changes often preceded betrayal. Someone planning to compromise security might suddenly, become overly interested in building relationships with key personnel.
What about Chan? Tell me more about her questions regarding the rotation schedule. Sarah asked specifically about the overnight shifts, who covers which zones during different times. She wanted to know about the gaps between patrols, the timing of supervisor checks.
Maria led them to a monitoring station where multiple screens showed feeds from throughout the facility. At the time, I thought she was being thorough, but, looking back, those aren't the kinds of questions someone asks unless they're planning something specific. They spent the next hour reviewing the facility's security measures in detail. Mitchell tested Maria's knowledge of emergency protocols, backup systems, and response procedures. Her competence was evident, but what impressed him most was her genuine care for the mission. This wasn't just a job to her, it was a responsibility she took seriously. As they completed their tour of Zone 4, Mitchell's radio crackled.
Commander Mitchell, this is base security. We have an urgent message from Naval Intelligence. Go ahead. Sir, we've intercepted additional communications. The timeline may have moved up. Request immediate callback on secure line. Mitchell looked at Maria, his expression grim. Santos, I need to make some calls. Is there a secure office I can use?
Yes, sir, Supervisor's office on level 2 has a secure line. Maria led him back through the facility, her mind racing.
The timeline had moved up.
Whatever threat they were facing was more immediate than they had thought. As they walked, Mitchell made a decision.
Santos, I'm going to need your help with this situation.
Based on what I've observed tonight, you know this facility and its personnel better than anyone.
Are you willing to assist in a security investigation that goes beyond your normal duties? Maria didn't hesitate. Absolutely, sir. Whatever you need. Good.
While I make these calls, I want you to review the security footage from the past 2 weeks. Look specifically for any anomalies in the behavior of personnel with Zone 3 and, for access.
Pay attention to timing, routes, any deviation from normal patterns.
They reached the supervisor's office, and Mitchell paused before entering.
Santos, I need you to understand something. If our intelligence is correct, someone you work with is planning to compromise this facility within the next day or two. That person may already know that we're investigating. You could be putting yourself at risk by helping us.
Maria straightened her shoulders, and Mitchell saw the same determination in her eyes that he recognized in his best operators. Sir, I took an oath to protect these weapons and this facility. If someone is planning to betray that trust, I'll do whatever it takes to stop them. As Mitchell entered the office to make his calls, Maria headed to the security monitoring room. For the first time in 3 years, her job had become something more than routine patrols and checkpoint scans. She was now part of an active investigation to prevent a security breach that could have national security implications. Sitting down at the monitoring station, Maria began reviewing footage from the past 2 weeks. She started with the timestamps corresponding to the incidents she had described to Mitchell. As she watched Dave Kowalski's movements in Zone 4, something caught her attention. His body language suggested he was looking for something specific, not conducting a routine temperature check. Maria made notes as she continued reviewing footage, documenting every anomaly, every deviation from normal behavior. The storm outside seemed to be getting worse, but, inside the facility, she was uncovering evidence of a storm of a different kind. Someone she had trusted was planning to betray everything she had sworn to protect. The question was, would they be able to identify the traitor before the breach attempt occurred? And, if the timeline had indeed moved up, how much time did they have left to prevent a catastrophe? Maria's eyes burned from staring at security monitors for 2 straight hours, but she had found something significant. The footage revealed patterns that were invisible during routine operations but became obvious when viewed from an investigative perspective. Dave Kowalski had made 3 unauthorized visits to Zone 4 over the past 10 days, always during shift changes when supervisory oversight was minimal. Commander Mitchell emerged from the secure office looking even more serious than before. His conversation with Naval Intelligence had clearly provided disturbing news. Maria looked up from the monitors as he approached. Sir, I found evidence of multiple unauthorized Zone 4 entries by Dave Kowalski. The timing suggests he was deliberately avoiding detection. Maria pulled up the relevant footage on the main screen. Look at this timestamp from 6 days ago. Dave enters Zone 4 at 0523 hours, while outside his assigned patrol schedule. Mitchell studied the screen intently.
What was he doing during these visits? That's the concerning part. He spent most of his time near storage units containing guidance system components. He also accessed the inventory terminals, which requires his supervisor's login credentials. Maria switched to another camera angle. Sir, I don't think Dave has those credentials legitimately. The implications were serious. If Kowalski had compromised supervisor login credentials, he could access detailed information about every weapon system stored in the facility. Worse, he could potentially manipulate inventory records to cover up missing components. There's more, Maria continued. I found corresponding footage of Sarah Chen conducting what appear to be counter-surveillance activities during these same time periods. She was positioning herself to monitor the corridors leading to Zone 4, essentially acting as a lookout. Mitchell's jaw tightened. They're working together. Chen identifies optimal timing based on guard rotations and supervisory schedules, while Kowalski conducts the actual reconnaissance of stored materials. That's my assessment as well, sir. But I still don't understand their endgame. The materials they're examining aren't easily portable, and removing anything significant would trigger multiple alarm systems. Mitchell was quiet for a moment, processing the information alongside what he had learned from naval intelligence. Santos, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. The intercepted communications suggest they're not planning to remove materials from the facility. They're planning to provide detailed intelligence about storage locations, security protocols, and inventory levels to hostile actors who will conduct their own operation. The scope of the betrayal was staggering. They're selling a complete blueprint for how to breach this facility. Exactly. With the information Kowalski is gathering, foreign operatives could plan a precise strike to acquire specific weapon systems while minimizing their time inside the facility. Mitchell moved to a different monitor. Show me the most recent footage of their activities. Maria pulled up footage from the previous night. This was recorded during my previous shift. Sarah Chen made 3 passes through the main corridors, timing the gaps between automated security sweeps. She also spent time near the environmental control systems. Environmental controls? If someone wanted to create a distraction during a breach attempt, disabling the climate control systems would trigger facility-wide alarms and force security personnel to respond to multiple locations simultaneously. Maria highlighted Chen's movements on the screen. She was mapping out exactly how to create maximum confusion. Mitchell realized they were dealing with a sophisticated intelligence-gathering operation, not amateur theft. Santos, based on what you're showing me, how long would you estimate they've been conducting this reconnaissance? Maria reviewed her notes and the timeline of suspicious activities. At least 3 weeks, possibly longer. They've been methodical about gathering information gradually to avoid detection. That matches our intelligence timeline. The intercepted communications began 4 weeks ago. Mitchell made a decision. We need to act tonight. Intelligence indicates the actual breach attempt is planned for tomorrow night, during the shift change at 0200 hours. The reality of the situation hit Maria. In less than 24 hours, hostile operatives would attempt to infiltrate her facility using intelligence provided by people she had trusted. Sir, what's our plan? We're going to catch them in the act. But I need to know if you're prepared for what that might involve. Kowalski and Chen are committing treason. When we confront them, they may react desperately. Maria thought about her family, her oath, and the weapons stored throughout the facility. Sir, I'm ready to do whatever is necessary to protect this facility. Mitchell studied her carefully. In his years of special operations, he had learned to recognize people who could be counted on under pressure. Maria Santos demonstrated the kind of steady competence and moral courage that made exceptional operators. Good. Here's what we're going to do. He pulled out a secure tablet and began outlining the plan. First, we're going to set up surveillance on both Kowalski and Chen during their next scheduled shifts. I need to document their activities in preparation for the breach attempt. When are they scheduled to be on duty together? According to the rotation schedule, they'll both be here tomorrow night for the 2000 to 0800 shift. That gives them perfect positioning to assist the breach team. Mitchell showed Maria the tactical layout on his tablet. I'll be positioned in the command center with additional security personnel. You'll maintain your normal patrol routine, but with modified routes that keep you closer to Zone 4. Maria understood her role. She would be the early warning system if anything went wrong. What about backup plans if they deviate from the expected timeline? That's where your knowledge of the facility becomes critical.
I need you to identify alternate routes they might use, backup systems they might target, any vulnerabilities that aren't obvious from the building schematics.
Mitchell pulled up the facility layout. Walk me through every possible way someone could approach Zone 4 without using the main corridors.
For the next hour, Maria provided detailed information about maintenance tunnels, emergency exits, and service corridors that didn't appear on standard security diagrams. Her 3 years of daily patrols had given her knowledge that existed nowhere else. She knew which doors were never properly secured, which cameras had blind spots, and which alarm sensors were less sensitive than others. "There's something else you should know," Maria said as they finished reviewing the building layout. The maintenance tunnel system connects Building 47 to 2 adjacent structures.
If someone wanted to stage equipment or personnel nearby without being detected, those buildings would provide ideal cover. Mitchell made notes on his tablet. Can those tunnels be secured from this facility?
Yes, sir, but it requires manual activation of security doors that are normally kept open for airflow.
Someone would have to physically access the tunnel system to close them. Maria paused.
Sir, if Kowalski and Chen know about those tunnels, they could guide the breach team through underground routes that bypass most of our surface security. The complexity of the threat was becoming clear. This wasn't just about preventing unauthorized access to stored weapons. They were trying to stop a carefully planned intelligence operation that could compromise national security for years to come. Mitchell's radio crackled again.
"Commander, this is intelligence. We have an update on the timeline." "Go ahead."
"Sir, additional intercepts suggest the operation may commence during tonight's shift, not tomorrow.
Recommend immediate implementation of countermeasures."
Maria felt her pulse quicken.
Tonight.
The breach attempt was happening tonight.
Mitchell stood up and began checking his equipment. "Santos, change of plans. We're implementing the security protocol immediately.
I need you to continue your normal patrol routine, but stay alert for any unusual activities. If you see anything that doesn't belong, anything that seems out of place, you contact me immediately."
"Yes, sir." "What about Kowalski and Chen? Should I avoid contact with them?"
"No, that would alert them that we're on to their operation. Maintain normal interactions, but don't let either of them know about this investigation." Mitchell handed her a secure radio.
"Use this if you need to communicate sensitive information. It's encrypted and monitored only by my team."
As they prepared to implement the security protocol, Maria felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. In a few hours, her routine security job would become the front line in preventing a serious breach of national security. Everything she had learned about the facility, every relationship she had built with her colleagues, every skill she had developed over 3 years was about to be tested in ways she had never imagined. The storm outside was beginning to subside, but inside Building 47, a different kind of storm was about to begin. Maria Santos, the night security guard who had always taken pride in protecting the facility's weapons, was about to discover that sometimes the greatest threats come from the people you trust most. As Commander Mitchell prepared to coordinate the broader security response, Maria began her modified patrol route. Tonight, she wasn't just checking doors and scanning badges. Tonight, she was hunting traitors who were planning to sell out their country for money. And, when she found them, she would be ready.
The clock showed 0145 hours when Maria noticed the first anomaly.
During her modified patrol of Zone 3, she spotted a small piece of tape covering one of the motion sensors near Storage Unit 3 Charlie. The tape was almost invisible against the black sensor housing, but Maria's heightened awareness caught the subtle difference in reflection. Someone had deliberately disabled the sensor to create a blind spot in the surveillance system. She keyed her secure radio.
"Commander, this is Santos.
I have evidence of sensor tampering in Zone 3, Unit 3 Charlie corridor." Mitchell's voice came back immediately.
"Copy that.
Document the location but don't disturb the tape."
"Can you identify when it was placed?"
Maria examined the tape more closely without touching it. The adhesive edges show minimal dust accumulation. I'd estimate it was placed within the last few hours, possibly during the previous shift change.
Understood. Continue patrol and report any additional anomalies. We're tracking 2 targets who should be arriving for duty within the next 20 minutes.
As Maria continued her rounds, she felt the familiar weight of her service weapon on her hip. 3 years of routine patrols had meant she rarely thought about the pistol she carried, but tonight it felt more substantial, more necessary. She had qualified expert with the M9 during her army service and maintained her marksmanship skills with monthly range training, but she had never drawn her weapon in the line of duty. Moving through Zone 4, Maria discovered 2 additional sensors had been tampered with, creating a pathway through the surveillance network that would allow someone to access the most secure storage areas without being detected by automated systems. The sophistication of the sensor placement indicated detailed knowledge of the security system's blind spots. Her radio crackled with Mitchell's voice. "Santos, both targets have arrived and are proceeding through security screening. Chen is carrying a small electronics kit that cleared inspection but could be used for additional sensor manipulation. Kowalski has a modified tablet that shows signs of custom software installation." "Copy that, sir. I've identified what appears to be a pre-planned route through Zone 4 using disabled sensors. Someone has created a path that avoids automated detection. That confirms our intelligence about inside assistance. Maintain your patrol but be prepared to adjust routes if I give you new instructions." Maria continued her modified patrol, but every shadow seemed potentially threatening now. The facility that had felt like a second home for 3 years now felt like a battleground waiting for combat to begin. She checked her watch, 0203 hours. If the intelligence was correct, the breach attempt would begin soon. As she approached the Zone 4 entrance, Maria heard the subtle sound of footsteps echoing from the main corridor behind her. She pressed herself against the wall and listened carefully. 2 people were moving through the facility, their footsteps trying to be quiet but not quite succeeding. The pattern of movement suggested they were checking their surroundings frequently, behavior that indicated they were conducting unauthorized activities. Maria keyed her radio and whispered, "Commander, I have 2 individuals moving through the main corridor toward Zone 4. Stealth movement pattern suggests possible hostile intent." "Roger that. Can you identify the individuals?" Maria carefully peered around the corner and caught a glimpse of 2 figures in security uniforms. Even in the dim emergency lighting, she recognized them immediately. "Sir, positive identification on Dave Kowalski and Sarah Chen. They're moving towards Zone 4 outside their assigned patrol schedule." "Perfect. Let them proceed to their intended target area. I need to document their activities before we intervene." Maria watched as Kowalski and Chen approached the Zone 4 entrance. Chen produced a small device from her kit and attached it to the badge reader while Kowalski stood watch. Within seconds, the device had apparently bypassed the normal authentication system, and the door opened without either of them scanning their badges. "Sir, they've bypassed the Zone 4 access control using electronic devices. They're now inside the most secure area." "Copy that. Maintain visual contact but do not engage unless they become aware of your presence. I need to see what they're actually doing in there." Maria followed at a distance, using the knowledge of blind spots and camera position she had shared with Mitchell to avoid detection. Through the reinforced glass windows of Zone 4, she could observe Kowalski and Chen working methodically through the storage area. Kowalski had connected his modified tablet to one of the inventory terminals and was downloading information while Chen used her electronics kit to disable additional sensors. They were working with the efficiency of people who had rehearsed this operation multiple times. But, as Maria watched, she realized they weren't just gathering information. Kowalski was opening storage containers and photographing their contents with a high-resolution camera. Chen was measuring distances between storage units and sketching the layout of the facility on a digital tablet. They were creating a complete operational intelligence package that would allow foreign operatives to navigate directly to specific targets. Maria's radio buzzed with an urgent message from Mitchell. "Santos, we have a problem. Perimeter security has detected 3 vehicles approaching the facility from different directions. The breach team is arriving ahead of schedule." The situation had just become exponentially more dangerous. "Sir, Kowalski and Chen are still in Zone 4 gathering intelligence. If the breach team arrives while they're inside, they could provide real-time assistance." "Understood. I'm implementing lockdown procedures now. All zone access doors will be secured remotely in 60 seconds. You need to get clear of Zone 4 immediately." Maria realized she was about to be trapped in the same area as 2 traitors and an incoming team of hostile operatives. But she also realized something else: if she could delay Kowalski and Chen for just a few minutes, the lockdown procedures would trap them inside Zone 4, preventing them from assisting the breach team. Making a split-second decision, Maria drew her service weapon and approached the Zone 4 entrance.
Commander, I'm going to engage the targets before lockdown.
They cannot be allowed to assist the breach team.
Santos, wait for backup. I have additional security personnel en route to your location.
Sir, with respect, there's no time.
Lockdown begins in 30 seconds.
Maria took a deep breath and prepared to confront two people she had worked alongside for years.
I'm going in.
Maria burst through the Zone 4 entrance with her weapon drawn and her voice carrying the authority of someone who had found her moment of truth.
Dave. Sarah. Drop your equipment and step away from the terminals immediately. Both traders spun around in shock.
Kowalski's hand moved toward his hip, but Maria was ready for that reaction.
I wouldn't recommend it, Dave. I'm a better shot than you remember from the range.
Chen raised her hand slowly, but her expression showed calculation rather than surrender.
Maria, you don't understand what's happening here. We're conducting authorized security testing. With equipment designed to bypass our own systems? While foreign operatives approach the facility?
Maria kept her weapon trained on both of them while backing toward the emergency alarm.
I don't think so. Kowalski tried a different approach. Santos, there's a lot of money involved in this operation. Enough to set you up for life. All you have to do is walk away for 10 minutes.
The casual way he offered to buy her betrayal made Maria's anger flare.
The only thing I'm walking away from is any respect I ever had for either of you.
As the facility lockdown engaged, heavy blast doors began sealing all zone entrances.
The Zone 4 entrance would close in 15 seconds, trapping everyone inside until security personnel could override the system.
Maria had succeeded in preventing Kowalski and Chen from assisting the breach team, but she had also trapped herself with two desperate traitors who might now resort to violence.
Chen suddenly lunged for her electronics kit while Kowalski dove behind a storage unit. Maria realized they were implementing some kind of backup plan that she hadn't anticipated.
As the blast doors sealed with a definitive clang, she found herself locked in the facility's most secure area with two people who were willing to commit treason for money. The lights went out as emergency power systems activated, bathing Zone 4 in the red glow of emergency lighting. In the distance, Maria could hear the sound of alarms indicating that perimeter security had been breached. The hostile operatives had arrived, and they were attempting to access the facility while their inside contacts were trapped in Zone 4.
Maria's radio crackled with Mitchell's voice. Santos, report your status. Are you secure? I'm locked down in Zone 4 with both targets. They're attempting to implement some kind of backup plan.
Maria kept her weapon ready while trying to track both traitors in the dim red lighting. Sir, I think they have a way to remotely assist the breach team even from inside the secure area.
Chen's voice echoed from somewhere in the darkness. You're too late, Maria. The upload is already complete.
Our associates have everything they need to complete their mission.
The realization hit Maria like a physical blow.
While she had been focused on preventing them from providing real-time assistance, they had already transmitted all the intelligence the breach team needed.
The lockdown hadn't stopped the operation, it had simply changed the timing.
But Maria Santos wasn't finished fighting. She had spent 3 years protecting this facility, and she wasn't going to let it be compromised on her watch. Even trapped in Zone 4 with two traitors and a hostile breach team attempting to infiltrate the facility, she had advantages they didn't know about. She knew every inch of Zone 4, every storage unit, every piece of equipment. She had backup communication methods that Kowalski and Chen weren't aware of. And, most importantly, she had the training and determination to protect what mattered, no matter the odds.
The battle for Building 47 was just beginning.
In the red emergency lighting of Zone 4, Maria Santos moved with the calculated precision of someone who had found her true calling. While Kowalski and Chen believed they had completed their mission by uploading intelligence to the breach team, Maria knew something they didn't. Zone 4 contained hardened communication equipment that could override the facility's main systems. She worked her way toward the emergency command station, a backup control center that few people knew existed. During her 3 years of patrols, Maria had discovered that Zone 4 wasn't just a storage area, it was designed as a backup command facility that could operate independently if the main command center was compromised. Chen's voice echoed through the darkness.
Maria, you might as well surrender. Even if you stop us, the breach team already has everything they need. In 30 minutes, they'll have accessed the guidance systems they came for. That's where you're wrong, Sarah. Maria reached the emergency command station and began entering her authentication codes. You gave them intelligence about the facility layout, but you didn't account for the lockdown protocols that I can activate from here. Kowalski emerged from behind a storage unit with his service weapon drawn. Step away from that terminal, Santos. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Maria smiled grimly as the emergency command station came online.
Actually, Dave, I think you'll find that the situation has changed. The main lights in Zone 4 suddenly blazed to life as Maria activated the emergency command protocols. Throughout the facility, blast doors that had been sealed during lockdown began opening and closing in a pattern that would confuse and disorient the breach team. More importantly, she had activated the facility's defensive systems that Kowalski and Chen had failed to account for. You see, when this facility was designed, the engineers planned for the possibility of simultaneous external and internal threats. Zone 4 can operate as an independent command center with override authority for all security systems. Maria kept her weapon trained on Kowalski while working the controls with her free hand. And, right now, I'm implementing protocols that will turn this entire facility into a trap for your friends. Through the emergency command system, Maria could see the locations of the breach team throughout the facility. They had split into 3 groups, each targeting different storage areas based on the intelligence provided by Kowalski and Chen. But Maria was now controlling the environment they were operating in. She activated motion-sensitive barriers that would channel the intruders into predetermined corridors, then triggered non-lethal gas dispensers that would incapacitate anyone without proper respiratory protection. The breach team had prepared for standard security measures, but they hadn't expected the facility itself to become an active opponent. Chen made a desperate lunge for Maria's position, but 3 years of army training hadn't been forgotten. Maria sidestepped the attack and used Chen's momentum to send her crashing into a storage unit. Stay down, Sarah. You've done enough damage. Kowalski still had his weapon, but he was realizing that the situation had shifted dramatically. Santos, you don't understand the full scope of what's happening here. This operation involves people way above your clearance level. Then, they picked the wrong facility and the wrong security guard to mess with. Maria activated the final protocol, a facility-wide communication system that would alert Commander Mitchell and his team to the exact positions of all hostile personnel. Her radio crackled to life with Mitchell's voice. Santos, we're reading multiple security activations from Zone 4. What's your status? Sir, I have control of the emergency command system. I've channeled the breach team into containment corridors and activated non-lethal suppression systems. Both internal targets are secured. Outstanding work. We have teams moving to intercept the breach team now. Your defensive protocols have given us exactly what we needed to contain the threat. As Maria maintained control of the emergency systems, she watched through the security cameras as Commander Mitchell's team systematically captured the hostile operatives. The breach team had been expecting to navigate a familiar facility based on detailed intelligence, but instead found themselves trapped in a maze of sealed corridors and defensive systems. Kowalski lowered his weapon as the reality of the situation became clear. How did you know about the emergency command protocols? Those aren't covered in standard security training. You're right, they're not. But I didn't just do standard security training for 3 years. I actually cared about understanding this facility completely. Maria kept the emergency systems active while additional security personnel worked to secure the breach team. While you were planning to sell out your country, I was learning how to protect it better. Within the next hour, all hostile personnel had been captured and the facility was secured. Commander Mitchell arrived in Zone 4 with a full security team to take Kowalski and Chen into custody. As the blast doors opened and normal lighting was restored, Maria finally holstered her weapon. Mitchell approached her with an expression of professional respect that she had never seen from a senior officer before. Santos, I need you to know that your actions tonight prevented what could have been a catastrophic breach of national security. The intelligence these operatives were trying to steal could have compromised military operations worldwide. Maria felt the weight of exhaustion settling on her shoulders as the adrenaline began to fade. Sir, I just did my job. Maybe a little more than usual, but still just my job. No, you did much more than that.
You demonstrated the kind of quick thinking and moral courage that we look for in special operations personnel. Mitchell paused. In fact, I'd like to discuss some opportunities that might interest you.
The Navy has programs for people with your skills and dedication.
As Kowalski and Chen were led away in restraints, Maria thought about the offer.
For 3 years, she had been content with her role as a security guard, believing that protecting the facility was purpose enough. But tonight had shown her that she was capable of much more.
Sir, I appreciate the offer, but I need to think about it.
This facility will need time to recover from what happened tonight, and I want to make sure the security improvements are properly implemented.
Mitchell nodded approvingly. That's exactly the kind of response I expected from you. Take your time to consider the options. The Navy will be there when you're ready.
As the facility returned to normal operations over the following days, Maria found herself thinking about the events of that night. She had always known that her job was important, but she had never imagined that she would become the last line of defense against a sophisticated intelligence operation. The investigation revealed that Kowalski and Chen had been recruited months earlier by foreign operatives who had identified them as potential assets based on their access and financial vulnerabilities. The breach attempt had been planned for weeks, with detailed reconnaissance and careful preparation. If Maria hadn't been alert to the subtle signs of insider threat activity, the operation might have succeeded. 6 weeks later, Maria received a letter from the Department of the Navy offering her a position in the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. The letter specifically mentioned her exceptional performance under pressure and her demonstrated ability to identify and counter insider threats. Maria read the letter while sitting in the Zone 4 break room during her regular patrol. After 3 years of routine security work, the idea of investigating crimes and protecting national security on a broader scale was appealing. But she also knew that facilities like Building 47 needed dedicated guardians who truly understood their importance. She made her decision and picked up the phone to call Commander Mitchell. Whatever path she chose, she would approach it with the same dedication and attention to detail that had made her an exceptional security guard. Some people might think that being a night security guard was unglamorous work, but Maria Santos knew better. Sometimes the most important battles are fought by the people nobody expects to be heroes. Sometimes the fate of national security depends on someone who takes pride in doing their job correctly, even when nobody is watching. And sometimes the most valuable thing you can do is simply refuse to give up when everything depends on you. Maria Santos had proven that heroes come in all forms, and that courage isn't about rank or recognition. It's about standing firm when it matters most, no matter what the cost. The night she faced down traitors and hostile operatives in Zone 4, she had discovered that she was much more than just a security guard. She was a guardian, a protector, and someone who understood that freedom is protected one shift at a time by people who take their responsibilities seriously. Commander Mitchell had been right about one thing: she definitely had the skills for special operations. The question was whether she was ready to use those skills on a larger stage, or whether her calling was to continue protecting the weapons that kept America safe, one night at a time.